This story is about a young male who just broke up with their partner, which made them have to move to a new dormitory. And it is this dormitory that is the cause of the creepy events in the story titled The Devil Above. Before we dive into our scary story, we would like to ask everyone to like and subscribe to support us in continuing to bring you more terrifying tales in the future. This is the story of Kay. Previously, he was someone who wasn't afraid of ghosts and didn't believe in such things at all. But after experiencing this event, it made him change from a non-believer to a firm believer. The whole story goes back 12 years. At that time, Kay was in his second year of university. Kay was dating a girl, and they had been together for about 5 years. Both his parents and his girlfriend's parents knew about their relationship and trusted Kay to rent a dormitory and live in the same dorm as his girlfriend. Both Kay's family and his girlfriend's family were aware of this arrangement. However, after living together for a while, they had a severe argument, leading Kay to decide to break up with his girlfriend. His girlfriend then packed her clothes and moved to another room, while Kay stayed in the same dormitory. Being a man, he initially thought he could handle it without any problems. But after a while, he started to feel increasingly sad and depressed because everywhere he looked, he saw the old memories with his ex-girlfriend. This led to him becoming depressed and not attending classes. Kay's friends noticed his changed behavior and, out of concern, came to see him. They told Kay, "Kay, if you keep going on like this, you should move out. If you stay here any longer, I'm afraid you'll do something stupid." Kay himself wanted to move out, but he told his friend, "I haven't started looking for a new dorm yet. I don't know if there are any vacancies around here, and I'm worried about the hassle of moving things." Then his friend suggested, "Why don't you stay at my brother's dorm? My brother used to live there, but he just moved abroad 3 days ago." His friend then took him to see that dormitory. The dormitory was a typical rectangular-shaped building with 7 floors, equipped with an elevator for convenience. When they entered the room, it was fully furnished. The room where Kay's friend's brother used to stay was room 611. Inside the room, there was a wardrobe, bed, TV, and water heater. When Kay saw the room, he liked it a lot. After asking his friend about the price, which was affordable, he decided to contact the dorm owner and moved in immediately. His friend also helped him move his stuff. After moving his things, that night was Kay's first night staying in this new dormitory. Being a new place, he wasn't quite used to it yet. He slept intermittently until he checked the time and saw it was already past 2 a.m. It was then that something happened on the 7th floor. Suddenly, there was a sound like a chair falling from the room above Kay's, followed by a sound similar to someone dragging a chair. The sound of the wooden chair scraping against the tile floor was quite loud. Kay thought to himself, "Why are they dragging a chair in the middle of the night?" He tried to cover his ears and force himself to sleep until the night finally passed. The next morning, Kay's mother called him, seemingly just finding out that Kay had moved to a new dormitory. She asked Kay, "Have you moved to a new dorm, son? Why didn't you tell me? Send me a picture of your dorm." Kay replied that he had just moved the day before and would send her a picture of the dorm later. After that, Kay went to class as usual and returned to the dorm after school. He brought an energy drink with him, intending to give it to the security guard at the dormitory as a gesture of goodwill. When Kay reached the guard post, he saw a guard who appeared to be around 50 years old standing there. Kay handed the drink to the guard and said, "Uncle, I bought this for you. Please take care of me." The guard accepted it and asked, "Young man, are you new here? I haven't seen you before." Kay replied, "Yes, I just moved in yesterday." Then the guard asked, "How was it? Did you sleep well in the dorm last night?" When Kay heard the question, he recalled the noise from the chair dragging upstairs the previous night. So he asked the guard, "Uncle, I couldn't sleep well last night. The room above me, I don't know why they were up all night, but they dragged a chair around almost the whole night. Didn't anyone in the neighboring rooms complain?" The guard seemed to think for a moment and then asked, "Which floor are you staying on?" Kay answered, "The 6th floor." Upon hearing Kay's response, the guard suddenly fell silent, then laughed and said, "There's something I should tell you, but I don't know if you'll be scared." At that time, Kay wasn't someone who feared these kinds of stories, so he told the guard to go ahead and tell him. The guard said that the 7th floor had been vacant for many years because a student had committed suicide there. She was a girl who lived alone in the dormitory, and she seemed to have problems with her studies, poor grades, and pressure from her parents. In the end, she decided to hang herself in her room. The spot where she hung herself was the ceiling fan in the middle of the room. When the guard finished the story, Kay thought to himself that he was truly unlucky. He intended to move to a new dorm to forget his ex-girlfriend, but ended up encountering a ghost instead. However, something occurred to Kay, and he asked the guard, "Uncle, which room did she hang herself in?" The guard replied, "Room 711. Upon hearing this, Kay was even more shocked because room 711 was directly above his room. Noticing Kay's expression, the guard asked, "Young man, which room are you staying in? Don't tell me it's room 611. Kay could only nod, and the guard laughed as if he was amused. Then the guard said, "Good luck," and gave Kay his contact number in case he needed help with anything. After the conversation, Kay walked back to his room, thinking about what to do. He couldn't move out because he had already paid the deposit, and leaving now would mean losing the deposit. He tried to reassure himself that it was just a noise and that at least it wasn't harming him. Kay forced himself to continue staying there. He noticed that every night at 2 a.m., the sound of a chair falling and someone dragging a chair would repeat daily. Eventually, he started to get used to it. A week later, his ex-girlfriend called, wanting to talk and resolve their previous issues. However, the conversation didn't go well, leading to another severe argument. Kay ended up sitting on his bed, hugging his knees and crying alone. Before he knew it, it was already 2 a.m. As he continued crying, the familiar sounds of a chair falling and dragging began again above his head. This time, he wasn't scared but rather annoyed by the constant disturbance. Frustrated, Kay looked up at the ceiling and shouted, "If you're dead, then stay dead. Why the hell are you dragging that chair around? It's annoying." After his outburst, the noise suddenly stopped. From that night onward, he no longer heard the sound of the chair falling or being dragged. 2 weeks later, Kay's university organized an event that kept him busy until late at night. He didn't get back to his room until past 1 a.m. Feeling exhausted, Kay took the elevator from the 1st floor to the 6th floor. Normally, he would press the button, lean against the elevator wall, close his eyes, and wait to hear the elevator chime before opening his eyes and stepping out. That night, feeling extremely tired, he did the same. As Kay closed his eyes, the elevator slowly ascended. When he heard the elevator chime, he quickly walked out. However, he immediately sensed something was wrong. The hallway lights were completely off, which was unusual as they were always left on no matter how late it was. Turning to look at the elevator, he saw it descending to the lower floors. Trying to think positively, Kay assumed there must be an issue with the dormitory's lights. He took out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and began walking to his room. He shined the light around the area to be sure, but when he pointed it at the first door, he was stunned. The room number was 701. Now he realized that the elevator had taken him to the 7th floor. Kay still tried to think positively, believing that he must have pressed the wrong floor button in the elevator. He turned back to the elevator and pressed the button for the 6th floor again. As Kay waited in front of the elevator, he watched the numbers indicating the elevator's floor rise from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stop at 6. But instead of going up to the 7th floor, the elevator descended to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Kay thought that perhaps someone else had pressed the elevator button before him, causing it to go down. So he pressed the button for the 7th floor again and watched the elevator's progress. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it stopped at 6 again before descending back to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, just like the previous time. Kay began to feel confused and unsure of what was happening. When he tried pressing the button for the 7th floor again, the button didn't work. Frustrated, he wondered why the elevator had to malfunction at this time. He realized his only option to get to the 6th floor was to use the emergency stairs, located at the end of the hallway opposite the elevator. This meant he had to walk past every room on the 7th floor to reach the stairs. Summoning his courage, Kay slowly and cautiously walked down the hallway with his phone's flashlight on. He passed rooms 701, 702, and continued to 708, noticing that all the doors were closed. But as he approached room 709, he heard a soft creaking sound of a door opening. The silence of the floor amplified the noise, making it seem much louder. Kay tried to ignore it, thinking it might be the wind, and continued walking. When he reached room 711, he saw that the door was ajar, the source of the creaking sound. Without thinking much, Kay slowly pushed the door open and shined his flashlight inside. The room was identical to his own, but it was nearly empty, save for a large bed and a chair in the middle of the room. The window had blue curtains drawn shut, and everything seemed normal. Kay closed the door and continued walking, but as he passed the next room, he heard the door creak open again, followed by the sound of a chair falling and someone dragging it. Feeling a mix of fear and annoyance, Kay quickened his pace. Then he heard a woman's laughter coming from behind him. At that moment, Kay's fear intensified. He broke into a run, heading towards the emergency stairs. However, when he reached the stairs, he found that a metal shutter door was locked with a padlock, blocking his way between the 7th and 6th floors. With the sounds of dragging and laughter growing louder, Kay panicked. He sat down, leaning against the shutter, and prayed for help, hoping the spirits would leave him alone. The noises persisted, and Kay could do nothing but cry. Then he remembered he had the security guard's phone number. He quickly called the guard, his voice trembling as he said, "Uncle, I'm on the 7th floor. Please help me." The guard seemed confused, saying, "Are you crazy, boy? You can't be up there. The stair door is locked, and the elevator is shut off." But Kay insisted, "I'm really on the 7th floor. The elevator brought me up here." The guard didn't believe him at first, so Kay decided to prove it by kicking the metal shutter door several times until the guard heard and believed him. The guard agreed to come up, and Kay waited anxiously as the sounds of the chair and the woman's laughter continued. After what felt like an eternity, though it was only 5 minutes, the guard arrived and unlocked the shutter. Kay rushed out, sobbing and telling the guard, "I saw a ghost! I saw a ghost!" The guard could only comfort him, saying, "It's okay, you're out now." Kay gathered his essential belongings and went to stay with a friend, unable to stay in the dorm any longer. Over the next month, he continued paying his dorm rent but stayed with his friend to avoid returning. Eventually, as he began to come to terms with what had happened, Kay decided to return to his dorm. Since then, the haunting incidents ceased. Until one night, Kay's university held another late-night event, similar to before. He returned to his room around 2 a.m., exhausted and slightly tipsy from having a few drinks with friends. Still somewhat conscious, Kay took the elevator up, pressing the button for the 6th floor, and leaned against the wall, closing his eyes. When the elevator doors opened, Kay walked out, noticing that everything seemed normal. The hallway lights were on, and everything appeared as it should. He entered his room and went straight to bed without showering. Barely 5 minutes into his sleep, his phone rang. It was his friend calling. "Kay, I'm coming over to grab my capo," his friend said. Kay replied groggily, "Yeah, sure. The spare key is in the usual spot." He always left a spare key above the door for his close friends to access his musical instruments. After hanging up, Kay's friend called again shortly after, sounding confused. "Kay, are you not home? Are you at a girl's place or something?" Kay, still half asleep, replied, "Are you crazy? I'm in my room right now. Where are you?" What his friend said next made Kay sober up instantly. "I'm in your room right now. Where are you?" his friend said. Kay slowly opened his eyes and responded with a mix of humor and confusion. "Wait, if you're in my room, then whose room am I in?" As Kay sat up, he realized that the humor had vanished, replaced by a chilling realization. The room he was in had only a bed, blue curtains, and a chair in the middle, identical to room 711 he had seen before. He was no longer in his own room. Panic set in as he remembered walking into what he thought was his room. Suddenly, a woman's laughter echoed in his ear, the same voice he had heard before. Kay jumped out of bed, trembling, and tried to open the door, but it was locked. The sound of a chair falling followed by the dragging noise, and the woman's laughter filled the room, now accompanied by a choking sound as if she was being strangled but still laughing. Desperately trying not to look back, Kay kicked the door repeatedly, but it wouldn't budge. In a moment of clarity, he remembered the door opened inward. He turned the doorknob and pushed the door inward, successfully opening it. Kay didn't hesitate. He bolted out of the room without looking back, with the sound of the chair dragging close behind. He ran down the hallway to the metal shutter door. Not waiting this time, he kicked it with all his might, crying out of fear. After several kicks, the old lock broke, and he was able to open the door. As he burst out, he saw a crowd of people from other rooms, drawn by the noise. Without stopping, Kay rushed to find his friend and had him take him to his friend's place immediately. The next day, Kay decided he couldn't stay there any longer, no matter the cost of breaking the lease. He quickly packed his belongings and moved out. Since then, Kay never encountered any strange occurrences again. And that's a wrap for today's horror story. I hope everyone enjoyed it and got a good scare. Stay tuned for the next spine-chilling tale I'll be sharing with you. And thank you for listening.